This is Geek Gab, the Geekarific Gabfest with your hosts, Dorrinal, Brian Niemeier, and me, Danny Warpig. We are back. That's right, Geek Gab every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, broadcasting live across the internet that is assuming things work. We have had, once again, the demons of technical difficulties visiting the show. I am not sure, but what my computer won't burst into flames as we're doing the show. Hopefully, it won't. Just in case it does, there are 20 previous episodes of Geek Gab ready to go, featuring interviews with John C. Wright, Larry Correa, and other really, really cool people, developers, programmers, writers, all kinds of stuff. So if the show blows up in our faces, feel free to peruse the vast library of excellent episodes we have managed to accumulate here at the Gab. I am going to turn the time over to my co-hosts, Brian and Dorrinal, just to let them say hi while I stop nervously fidgeting at the smoke I believe is emitting from my computer case. That's a joke, by the way. Dorrinal, how you feeling?
Hey, delicious. Glad to be here. I've noticed here on the Geek Gab, I'm waiting in chat to see who's watching, and I see that on the right side with the suggested videos, nothing but Sabrina the Teenage Witch episodes. I don't know what that's about. I don't remember telling anybody about my secret Melissa Joan Hart folder on my computer. So I think Google's getting pretty invasive. How are you doing, Brian?
Well, I was okay. Now I'm a little paranoid because I'm seeing the same thing. No Clarissa Explains It All, though. I'm disappointed.
Yep, showing my age. That was my show for sure. Back in the Nickelodeon days.
It really makes me feel good about this whole process right now. Why is it? I mean, I've heard hundreds of streams, sat in on several. Why is it that this particular stream gets the benefit of so many technical problems? And the reason why I'm asking is at least in my headset, both of you are coming across as really staticky, like broadcasting in an old World War II war movie, calling in airstrikes on German positions staticky. I have no idea what's going on with that.
Well, I for one, am speaking to you
with your
from a Geekariffic World War II bunker, so that's good.
That's right. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm also hearing a promo.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the show. I don't know why that's reverberating either. I don't have any...
Hold on, let me change a vacuum tube here. I'll be right back.
It sounds like, this is what it sounds like. It sounds like that probe, the Imperial probe droid from the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, when he's floating across the field and Han Solo and Chewbacca are sneaking up on it. You hear it broadcasting to the Imperials to let them know they have discovered the location of some, perhaps, smuggler base. They weren't sure at that moment in the movie, and that's exactly what you guys are sounding like at this point. It's pretty cool. If we had it's a good thing this is being recorded, so if any sound effects artists thought that was an interesting effect, they could try and replicate it somehow.
The Viper Probot? I love that guy. Can we get him on?
No.
Oh.
I think it was the stream going live on my webpage. I had the refresh while I was waiting for chat. And I think that was just coming over my headphones, which is interesting because I use a headset in order to avoid any feedback at all. I'm going to do an experiment. How do you guys feel about industrial? Trick question. We've already talked about this. You love industrial.
Oh, yeah.
Here's another experiment. Can you hear the music now?
Very softly in the background.
I'm sorry? The music was too loud. I couldn't understand you.
Very softly.
Oh, that must have been it. Well, mystery solved. Not gremlins.
I don't need you and your facts.
I just ruined the magic, didn't I?
That's all you ever do.
I will So it's just me that hears bad. Great. That's cheerful. That's awesome. Why don't I just sit here and let you guys do the show, and I will keep my mouth shut for once, because that way it appears as if the technical problems are all happening on my end, which is just all kinds of exciting, I tell you what.
Step 1, format. Step 2, reinstall your operating system. Yeah, that should work.
Okay,
You're
here's
actually...
the thing.
Yeah.
I'm completely discombobulated. I'm supposed to be on top of this. I'm supposed to have smooth patter for every single occasion. If the audience can hear me clearly and the audience can hear you clearly, I guess it doesn't really matter what I hear. I will just have to be a trooper and suck it up and accept the static in my earphones, which I can do. I can tough this out. I can brazen it out as if everything is perfect. So I am really hoping that my next question is answered strongly in the affirmative, that both of you are eager and excited and ready to go, because my next question is, hey, is there anything you wanted to talk about this week? Anything geekish, anything new, anything exciting, or anything even, not quite new, but new to you? I know at one point Dorrinal had mentioned discussing Dragon Age Inquisition. I don't know if he's still up for that. The reason why I ask is because I have been busy working all week. I essentially, other than when I'm actually at meals or doing some other personal stuff, I'm working, and so I haven't watched TV. In fact, I announced bravely, boldly, excitedly a new Marvel television series. I announced that on the blog, daddywarpig.com. I posted it all over Twitter, and I have not seen a single episode, although I hear episode 2 has a fight scene that is incredible, puts whole genres of action movies to shame, and so I'm looking forward sometime I'm estimating here, 2025, to actually being able to watch Daredevil and enjoy that fight scene. Is there therefore something that you can bring to the table to backstop my embarrassing oversight at having done anything clearly geekish this week? No movies, no TV shows. I kind of started a new book, but I haven't finished that. Yeah, that about covers it. I kind of started a new comic book, by the way, but I haven't finished that either, so I can't talk about it really with much
Why
eloquence.
did you even mention it? Now I have to know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the new Daredevil yet. I'll have to set aside some time to do that. What about you, Brian?
No, I've not seen it yet.
Well, we're going to have to do our homework and talk about it next week. I'll tell you what I did instead of watching great stuff. That's the first time I've heard about that fight scene, by the way. After what Arrow's done for action scenes on television, I have to see this. But what I did was my wife and I binged on Heroes of the Storm. We've been playing it a few hours a week for a couple weeks now, ever since we got beta keys, and it's fun. It's something.
Well, good.
Are you guys familiar with the Heroes or the MOBA genre or anything like that?
I'm not. I would love for you to enlighten me and our listeners.
Okay, so I'll go back to step 0. Have you heard of tower defense?
I have.
Okay, so Heroes of the Storm is a type of game called a MOBA, which... Oh, it's a multiplayer online battle arena. It's a stupid name. But what it is it's inverse tower defense. You know how in tower defense you've got the little guys that come out, and then you've got big boss waves with big tough guys that need to be defeated.
Sure.
So in Heroes of the Storm, you've got a similar setup where there's two teams of players of 5 players each, and you basically play the big tough heroes that smash little minions, crush towers, and everything, and fight each other. So it's the inverse. Your job is to break through all the towers and get to the enemy's base and destroy it. So Blizzard, this is their take on the genre, which involves them throwing all of the heroes, notable characters and villains and things from their different IPs, just putting them in a blender and going for it.
Right. So very much genre bashing, as it's called.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I can dig it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We're kind of suckers for Blizzard products as it is. I like the polish that they have, and we've played enough World of Warcraft and stuff that we sort of get a lot of the characters and the references.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the best way to expand, to have a spin-off IP like that. So it sounds like it's working on you.
It is, and the Blizzard did the typical Blizzard thing where they wanted to attract more casual gamers and stuff. And what they did was they took the most popular game right now is League of Legends. You have undoubtedly heard of League of Legends.
Absolutely.
A couple of things weird about League of Legends is that the first thing is that the games are like an hour long. There's a lot more personal skill and advancement involved. Micromanaging your character's actions and attacking the little minions at the right time is important, etc. In all of these games, your character levels up from level 1 at the beginning of the game. So you get that whole sort of RPG experience of starting off as a nerd and smashing minions and becoming this, terrible wrecking force.
Right.
It's great. You get that throughout the whole game, but in League of Legends and Dota, the other a really popular one, the experience to your character is individual, and so if you have a bad person on your team, they're basically just feeding the opposing team levels. And, by the end of the game, there'll be like an 8 or 10 level differential. Blizzard didn't want none of that. Levels are shared, so yeah, if you got a bad person on your team, you're probably going to lose, but you're going to be like 2 or 3 levels behind because everybody stays the same level.
Oh, that is an interesting solution to an age-old problem. I definitely give them props for that.
Yeah, you almost want to try that in a regular D&D game, right?
I might have to now.
Do you have a lot of dead players that are re-rolling characters?
Well, I don't, but I know people who do. Like, I honestly haven't run D&D in years, but it's an intriguing enough concept.
Well, to go off on a total tangent, what are you running these days? I know that you like RPGs.
Yes, I'm not running anything right now. I've decided to sit back and relax and let other people entertain me. So I'm in 2 games. One is a weird mishmash of Dawn of Worlds, where we use Dawn of Worlds to co-create the game world together, and then that we kind of parlayed that into a World of Darkness game. The other one is Legends of Wulin. It's a Chinese wuxia game that we imported, and my cousin, who's a huge Wushu fan, is running that.
Well, that sounds pretty exciting. So it's an actual, not only is like a Chinese type of Chinese story, but it's actually a Chinese RPG using that setting.
Yes, as far as I know that it's an import, and English was not the writer's first language, which isn't too obvious when you read it. I mean, it seems to hang together well.
Oh, see, here I thought it was actually in Chinese, and your cousin was just sort of making it up all along.
No, although he has done that. Him and a friend did do a translation, an unofficial one, for Legends of the Three Kingdoms, the card game.
I haven't heard of that one.
It's a card game based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
I love Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Well, then you probably like this. It's meant to be played in large groups. And, boy, it's been a while since I played it. I've only played it like twice. But the basic gist of it is, before the game begins, players are assigned roles by drawing them in secret. And there's the Emperor, and a Courtier, and Bandits. I think possibly one more, but basically there's like a turncoat, someone who's loyal to the Emperor, and then revolutionaries are trying to overthrow him. And the only person that you know who's who at the beginning is the Emperor. So one part of strategy is in who you attack, because you attack other players with your cards, but people have different victory conditions. Because obviously the revolutionaries' conditions are to kill the Emperor. The Emperor's condition is to kill everyone, well, all the identify and kill all the revolutionaries. And then, like, the turncoat has to kill everyone else, but kill the Emperor last.
Oh, this is Bang. You're describing Bang.
Possibly.
That's wonderful. How does it play, though? Is it like a quick card game?
It can take a while. I mean, I'm sure it's supposed to be quick, although, you know, I'm such a noob at it, I usually take a long time trying to make up my mind. But, I mean, you can...
Oh yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, that game style is a lot of fun. There's another one called Bang, which really popularized it. It's the same idea. The only person whose role you know is the sheriff, and
Okay.
the outlaws want to kill the sheriff. The deputies need to kill the outlaws, and there's one guy who needs to kill all the deputies or kill all the outlaws, and then beat the sheriff in a shootout.
I'm looking it up right now. Thanks.
You'd love it, although maybe you like the Romance of Three Kingdoms theme better.
No, I mean, I can do Western. That's fine. I like the mechanic. Yeah, here it is. I'm at Board Game Geek looking at it. Perhaps Daddy Warpig could... Let's link to it. I will send it to him. There we go. All right, outstanding.
Wow, and if you guys like that, how many people do you usually play with?
Usually, I would have to say average 4 or 5.
Not bad. If you get up to 5 or more, like 5, 6, 7, I heartily recommend a game called Shadowhunters. Shadowhunters is the same idea, except every character is hidden, and who you can attack depends on where your character is in the city as opposed to where you're sitting at the table. Bang is very much, I can only shoot the guy to my left or right, which kind of makes things weird sometimes.
Right. I could understand how that could get awkward.
Yeah, sometimes you get like the two deputies are sitting next to each other, and then fuck. Or if the sheriff is surrounded by two outlaws, the game like ends before some people even get a turn.
Wow.
Yeah.
So here's the upshot. I keep on fiddling with settings here, and I can hear you, and then it goes away. So I can hear you right now, so I will jump into the conversation because, honestly, on the subject of Bang, I have no opinion, so I have no information to offer. That is my contribution, and I am excited to put it on the table.
The only thing that makes Bang better than any of them, if you're playing with the right amount of maturity in your players, the basic attack card is called Bang, right? You shoot your gun. So
Right.
You can be playing with your friends and everything, and you can be sitting next to your buddy's wife and say, all right, on my turn, I bang your wife.
I get it.
And it never actually gets old.
I have played it a couple of times, and it hadn't gotten old yet the 2 times I've played it, or 3 times I've played it.
Yeah, I've got to try this out.
Not with my wife.
That's something that kind of makes me sad.
Wow, that doesn't get old. But yeah.
I spent $100 and some odd to buy a box set of Dominion, because they had Dominion with 2 expansion packs in it, Alchemy and Intrigue. I spent $100 something to buy it, and we played it, and now I got home because my friends all live far, far away, and so we can't get together to play it. And I've only once tried to talk my family into playing it, but they absolutely rebelled. They wouldn't even try it.
Oh, that's a shame.
Wouldn't even pretend to try it, which was kind of disappointing.
Oh, that's weird. That's too bad. You know what? I think not every family has this tradition, but there are a lot of families that are like card game families, and that was mine, especially my mother's family. We'd always go to grandma's house, and they'd play pinochle and stuff. Only this crazy their version of pinochle. Um, but yeah, I guess some families have that tradition, and others just don't.
Mine definitely doesn't. I'm jealous.
And for anybody listening who has a family or is starting a family, be that kind of family.
I have to agree. My family, our only competitive sport was eating.
So, man.
I'd be pretty good at that, I think.
Without me yelling, have we cratered? Is that what happened when I started talking? Should I have just kept silent? Was that...
Huh? No, although we never really got to finish talking about Here's the Storm, but that's not important.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, breaking in on a wrestling conversation, tell us about what makes you depressed is a starter. I'm kidding.
Hey,
No,
Daddy
you're-
Warpig. Nathan Housley in chat wants to know if you play Dominion Online.
I didn't know you could play Dominion Online, I will be perfectly honest.
Search it up. When Dominion was first out, there was a web page where somebody did it like a really quick and dirty JavaScript app, and you could just rapidly play game after game after game. I forget what the web page is, and it doesn't matter because they pretty much closed down once Dominion got an official online game. But yeah, people have been playing Dominion Online ever since basically it's been printed. And the nice thing is, obviously, A, no shuffling, and B, card selection at the beginning of the game is so much faster.
Okay, that sounds cool.
It does sound good.
I'm trying to think. Here's the thing. I want to talk about something that we can talk about and also at the same time argue over, that we have like differing opinions on. Is there any possible subject? Let's see. I use a Mac. I know. Is that bad? Am I laughing maliciously? Have I given the game away? I know Dorrinal uses a PC. Do you have strong opinions about using a PC?
I don't. In the sense that I prefer it over anything else. I pretty much learned on a Mac. I did my first programming and actual GUI work on a Mac. I don't have a strong opinion, except I've got a preference. But if if PCs become unavailable tomorrow and Apple was the only option, I mean, I wouldn't stop computing.
See, I used to have like really strong opinions about computing, and I found that about 10, 15 years ago, it was around 2000, when I started working on big projects, all of a sudden I didn't have time to screw around with computers anymore, and so it became a production machine, and I still have an opinion about what operating system and programs I use and why I like them. Unlikely to change, but at the same time, I stopped caring what other people thought and telling them why my stuff was cool, because I had work to do. It didn't matter to me if it was cool or not. It mattered whether or not I got the work done. And it may be that all of the arguing about this comes from people who don't necessarily have to use their machines all the time, that they have enough time to worry about whether or not they're better than other people's, or whether or not their operating system is better. That's just a pure speculation based solely on my own experience. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, people who need to work need certain tools to do their work, and I think for most things, at least up until a few years ago, Windows had all the tools, and nowadays Mac's probably just as good, but you still sort of see the artsy design people gravitate towards Apple, and you still see the Office spreadsheet type people gravitate towards Windows. It's just natural.
Observation?
I'm glad I'm not a spreadsheet person, I'll be honest. I feel better about myself that I'm not a spreadsheet person. I've used spreadsheets. I do use spreadsheets. But to have to do that all the time as a job, that just it sends chills down my spine. Makes me, sour in the stomach. Makes me feel like I'm contemplating jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. I'm like, really? You have to do this? And they do it for a job? That sucks, man. So that's my opinion. I wish I had a stronger one. Every time I post, though, it's funny because every time I post or tweet something out about it, I get a ton of people who, I can't even tweet like innocuous stuff. Somebody started a hashtag called Solution6Months, and it's designed to bring people into game design, to give them the tools they need to start up game design, to start writing and making their own games, to try and foster a new generation of game developers. And I thought that was awesome. The developer who set it up, who was on one of the earliest episodes of the show, Jennifer Daw, was primarily PC based, and so she was talking about PC tools. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Here's some information about OS 10. Here's some information about iCode. Here's where you go. It's, they have an integrated development environment that's completely free. All the documentation is free. All the boards that you have discussions about are free. And if you want to actually sell programs on the Mac, it's free. You don't have to spend any money. If you want to sell them on the App Store, you have to put in, I think it's a $140 application fee a year to sell stuff for iPhone or iPad. And so I was just sharing this information because I thought, hey, this is cool. This is awesome. I want to get behind this, give people the information they need, because if you're going to do anything for the iPhone or iPad, you have to develop through a Mac, pretty much. There are a couple of Java and Flash converters, but they produce janky stuff that isn't as good as native code. Anyways, just my opinion. No sooner did I start sending out this series of basic information tweets allowing people to, if they were interested, check out more and maybe become a game developer, including Swift, which is some really cool stuff. It has a visual composition screen to where if you want to build a game, they have a built-in physics engine right in the IDE. You can just put the elements up on the screen and choose how they interact and animate. It's really, really cool. I thought that was just awesome. If I was a developer, I would be all over that because it simplifies to no end making the kinds of games that tend to do well on iPhone, iPad platform. And no sooner did I start posting about this stuff than this guy jumps on and starts telling people how awful Apple is and how evil Apple is and how you should never develop for Apple products except maybe after you make an Android version and then develop for an Apple product. And I'm like, dude, I don't care that you like Android, but we're in a, this is like an idealistic thing that we're trying to help new people become developers. Why do you feel the drive to just crap all over it? If you don't like Apple, that's fine, man. I get that. There's a lot of things Apple does that I don't like. But come on, we're trying to help new people out here, and you're just jumping in and starting this flame war up, and that's just not cool.
I don't know, man. That's what the internet is for.
Perhaps.
I was just going over to Dorrinal while I mess with settings here again.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, yeah, pretty much all of my friends have been big IT guys, and they've had their debates about Apple versus Mac, and I just sit there, and to me the whole thing is like, do you prefer Black & Decker or Krupp toasters? I mean, it's a tool, but like you said, Dorrinal, I mean, the only reason I own a PC is because it became easier to use a word processor than a typewriter.
As far as word processing goes, it doesn't really matter anymore.
Right, exactly. And I suppose, email and Twitter are easier than sending Western Union, so...
And this is really interesting. What was that quote that I read? I should find it, but we've got... It was something along the lines of, the internet is now the most important computing space, as opposed to the actual computer itself. It's a really interesting quote.
Wow. I'm not really qualified to dispute that, but it's a fascinating concept. I mean, it makes logical sense.
Yeah, I mean, think about what we're doing. Like, our not only our communications online, but yeah, in cloud storage too. You know, we save documents and everything. I don't save much on my computer anymore, aside from the people who download as much stuff as they can and keep it on hard drives and things to check out later.
Well, personally, since my livelihood depends on me having constant ready access to my data, I store it everywhere I can.
Oh yeah, you got lots of backups.
Oh yeah.
I also am really paranoid about my backup strategy. Yeah, I have two different cloud services I use to back up stuff to. It's paranoia. I've been working on the same project for about 15 years now, and so losing any major part of that would be a devastating blow.
So just because you're paranoid doesn't mean the server won't crash.
Yeah. There are demons of computing, and they hate you and your data, and if you only have one copy of something, what you're saying is, essentially, I don't care if I have this data tomorrow or not, it won't matter to me, because it can get deleted, and I'm cool with that. That's what one copy of data means. That's what having no backups means. You're announcing to the world that you just don't give a crap what happens to your data.
Absolutely. I mean, even going back to the old, snail mail days of submitting manuscripts to publishers, rule number one was never have only one copy of anything.
Yeah, you send your only copy into the slush pile. You might as well have tossed it on the fire. You might as well have tossed it in the fireplace, because that's all the good you're going to get out of it. It will never come out of that slush pile intact.
Yep. The same applies to the digital world. It's all just information.
I was listening to Writing Excuses at one point, and I think it was Howard was talking about how much he hated digital movies and how much better physical things were. Movies, books, whatever. And my thought is, yeah, that makes so much sense. I mean, after all, it's not like books can get burnt up. It's not like books can get in a flood, or the dog can get them, or bookworms, which are literal, actual, insecty things that eat them. I mean, it's not like you bend the pages or have the covers get ripped off or spill food or drink on them. Obviously, physical objects are superior to a digital copy that you can back up to several different places. I can totally see why people prefer buying a DVD and consider a digital movie not a real thing, or a digital book not a real thing, because physical items are absolutely impervious to harm.
Yeah, and it's actually a real good case to be made there, but something that's totally tangential to this, but I really want to talk about it, and that's that a big objection to ebooks or digital copies of movies or games or anything is, well, I don't really own it. I don't have a physical object that I own. But the counter to that is what you said, which is, well, if you shell out 30 books for a hardcover book, and then it gets rained on, or it gets lost in a house fire, gets torn, you don't own it anymore. But a digital copy is just ones and zeros. It can be backed up an infinite number of times. So there's actually a strong argument, and I think a convincing one to be made, that you actually have more ownership over digital than hard copy sometimes.
The only exception to that I would claim is DRM.
That's why I hate to DRM, but anyway.
Yeah, when something depends on another company's validation servers being up or not, then that is something you don't really own. You're just, I don't know, renting or leasing or whatever.
You're licensing it, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I can understand. I don't like DRM, but there's just for certain specific things you have to put up with DRM right now, at least.
I really hope that Amazon eventually sees the light and gets rid of it for Kindle.
I am considering at this point how much I'm allowed to say on that subject.
Well,
let me put it this way. I have gotten several things through Kindle because either they were available free or they weren't available anyplace else. And as soon as I am physically capable of doing so, I convert them to ebooks and put them on put them onto my iPhone because that's where I do my reading. And so I really don't like keeping things in Kindle format 1 second longer than I have to. And it is possible, if that is something that you are driven to do, it is possible to achieve that. I cannot and will not give anybody any information on it, but it is possible, and you can find that information out.
Yeah, that's why I just wish that Amazon would get rid of their proprietary format and just go to EPUB like everybody else. Because people want to read on their phones, their tablets, not just their e-readers.
I deliberately patronize companies and publishers who release things in a DRM-free format, like Baen Books. To the extent that when a book was free from Baen Books through their library, I have bought actual physical copies of it, even though I already had it for free. This is back when I read physical copies, but still, I go out of my way to buy books that I see is being published by Baen because it is specifically available DRM free, and I think the publishers who do that should be rewarded.
Absolutely, and I reward Baen. Of this, you can be certain. But yeah, if everything I've seen, all the information I've seen, the arguments that, oh, well, we need DRM or else, we'll give away the farm to pirates. No, I mean, the way you fight piracy, as J.A. Connor's is saying, is through convenience and price.
I made this point back it was 1999 when Napster was just getting big. It had just started bubbling up into the public consciousness. I made this point then, and I was proven correct a few years later. The point I made was this: the fact that people are downloading so much music through Napster means there is a market for digital music, that if companies were willing to sell music digitally, people would be willing to pay for it, and it has been borne out a few years later by Apple opening up their music store, the iTunes Music Store, and I'm not saying they were the first. I'm just saying that was big and it was public, and it proved my point that people are willing to pay money to buy digital copies of things to put on their devices because they're just convenient. They're a lot more convenient than a physical copy. If you're going to go for a run, it's easier to carry a little iPod that is just bigger than a chiclet that has 200 some odd songs on it and just listen to it, and than it would be to carry a dozen different DVDs or CDs and swap them in and out, or even a mixtape or something. It is without a doubt superior in many ways, and I think that the people who didn't realize that left money on the table and encouraged the growth of piracy by not servicing a market that was clearly present.
Yes, and in the chat, Wolfman at Large brings up a good point that one of his headmates pirates ebooks, and then will go and buy a Dead Tree copy as soon as possible. And he's unloaded. A lot of people do that. One thing that piracy has been strongly indicated to do for authors is give a free sample, because pirates then distribute it to other people and show it to their friends and people on their torrents, and there is a bounce back to paid sales, which is why it's kind of counterintuitive, but a successful strategy that a lot of indie authors have used is just give away their books for free for a certain period, and there's almost always a bounce back onto the paid list after that. I mean, it's free advertising.
It kind of works the same for games too.
Yes.
One of the big things that happened a long time ago, when the Sony PlayStation came out, Nintendo stuck with their cartridges, if you recall, in the N64, and the PlayStation came out, and the PlayStation had no particular DRM or anything. And with a quick modification, it was very easy to pirate games on the PlayStation.
Oh, yeah.
You just have copies and copies of these discs full of games that you wanted to play. It was harder to do on the Sega Dreamcast, but it was doable. And the PlayStation still outsold everything. It didn't matter how easy it was to pirate their software.
Outstanding example. And I want to make it clear, I'm not advocating that anyone steal anyone or violate anyone's copyright or violate any IP holder's rights. I'm just pointing out that it's fairly evident to me, at least, and many others in several industries, that those who are hardliners for DRM are, one, fighting a losing cause, and two, a lot of their arguments are based on false premises. Again, you fight piracy with good pricing and convenience. You make it more convenient not to pirate than to pirate.
Also, yeah, most people I know really don't care about how much money any publisher's making.
I'm one of those people.
It's even worse with music. I mean, it's been sort of widely circulated for years now. People finally cottoned on to the fact that the musicians actually make all of their money touring. They see almost none of the money from record sales, or they didn't.
Oh yeah, for those who aren't aware, the way that royalties work in the music industry might be the only industry where the royalty structure gives traditional publishing a run for its money for screwing the artist. But what they do is they take an album, okay, by an artist, and then they divide it up into a number of points. Okay, so like one particular CD might be worth, I don't know, 600 points or something, and they base that off of projected sales, previous sales by the same artist, overhead, all that, and an artist might only get like 1 or 2 points on an album. That's of the whole list price.
Jeez.
I mean, that's why the members of, remember TLC? They were practically impoverished. I mean, they lived in mansions and drove expensive cars, but those are perks provided by the studio. Like I think I read somewhere that like they ended up making the equivalent of like $40,000 a year, which was pretty much immediately spent. But yeah.
Wow, that's nuts.
Did Daddy Warpig, guys?
Daddy Warpig had to give a moment of silence. He was a big Lisa Left Eye Lopez fan.
Yeah. Pouring out a libation right now.
He said libation. Awesome.
Of course, that is customary. For those homies who ain't with us no mo. You know how it goes. But yeah. I'm with you. You know, it's,
so you said you're one of those guys. Does it hurt you every time I steal stuff?
Me?
I haven't pirated any of your work yet, if it makes you feel better.
No, I don't feel one way or another about it. I'm one of those guys who doesn't care how much money a publisher makes. I'm a guy who cares how much an author makes, and how much readers get entertained. And I believe that the former should dictate, or the latter should dictate the former, rather.
Okay, let's say I wanted to read your stuff and make sure that you get compensated the best for it. What's the best? Like what's the best way to do that currently, and what's the ideal solution?
Currently, okay, for me, because I've not signed with a publishing house, right now going and buying a copy of Sci-Fi Journal number 3, well, honestly, it doesn't matter because I got paid up front for that, so I've already seen the money. So you buying as many issues as Sci-Fi Journals as possible so that you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I own several copies, Bob. That will help ensure that there will be a Sci-Fi Journal in the future for me to make submissions to. When I do get my book out, which is rapidly approaching, one thing I wanted to tell you guys and our listeners is I just got the preliminary sketches for my novel's cover art yesterday. And to say I'm pleased is an understatement. I'll keep you apprised of developments on that as they occur.
So, did the information that people I gave you to contact, did that prove fruitful?
Yes, it did, sir. I was going to thank you for that formally, so I'll do it now. Thank you. I actually found them through DeviantArt.
Oh, I've spent so much time on that place over the last 6 weeks, 5 weeks.
I've seen things you wouldn't believe.
I was going to say, so DeviantArt, so is your book about furries or something?
Not yet.
Am I thinking Tumblr? Do I have it wrong?
Not entirely.
It's funny because DeviantArt, I don't know how it started. I don't know what the history of the place is, but it is the biggest hangout for actual professional artists. I mean, you have like head character designers and art designers for major film studios, for developers. They all have DeviantArt pages where they put up samples of their art and let you know if they're accepting commissions or not. It's a great place to wander sideways through a bunch of different art that you didn't know existed, and it's a good place for random discovery of stuff if you actually need that, and I personally actually needed that. It's a great place for randomly finding stuff you didn't know existed but was really, really cool, and you're glad you found out about it. It is not as good a place for finding stuff you're deliberately looking for, which Brian has alluded to before.
Indeed, and really quickly, after all that beating around the bush, to answer Dorrinal's question, buying it directly from an indie author's Amazon account is by far the best way to get money into the author's hand, because as long as it's priced $2.99 and above, the author gets 70% of the royalties. Whereas even if you're buying an ebook through a traditionally published author, the major publishers are all in lockstep at a 25% royalty, which was decided like back in the 60s when they decided, well, gee, at some point in the future, it may be possible to order a book to be printed on demand via radio telegraph for an atomic-powered printing press to laser engrave the book onto sheets of osmium and airmail it to the reader. So yeah, 25% sounds good. Yeah, now it sucks. Amazon's doing 70.
Although, to harken back to an earlier point of the discussion tonight, the only reason Amazon did 70 is because there was a competitor who I won't name, but whose name rhymes with Schmapple Schmumputer, who pushed them into that because that was their revenue structure. Before then, Amazon was taking 70% of the revenue and leaving the author 30. So that's what competition does. That's why having more than one source for ebooks is important, is because it forces companies to play fair without advocating for either side in that dispute.
That is interesting. I've read a lot about the contretemps between Apple and Amazon and the Big Six and the Big Five publishers. I know that originally Amazon did a 30-70 split, like very early in the Kindle's life, but then they moved it to, okay, we'll reverse that and do 70-30 as long as you price your book at $2.99 or above. What the Apple thing, like I talked about the Department of Justice collusion, like monopoly lawsuit.
We can. We only have 9 minutes, but...
Well, is that what you're referring to?
No. I'm just referring to the fact that before the iPad came out with an ebook reader on it, it was 70-30, and after the iPad came out with an ebook reader, Amazon flipped it because that was now the new royalty structure that Apple was applying, and so Amazon shifted to where they were taking 30 and giving 70 to the author. Like before then, if you paid to have a blog or something sent to your Kindle, which you could do through. It was a cumbersome process, but you could do it. There was a revenue split there, but the author only got 30%. Amazon took 70%. That's what I'm talking about. I don't want to talk about the.
No, we do not need to get into that. I was just wondering.
Um,
I'm done. Dorrinal, got anything?
I ran out.
Okay.
I'm done. I want to go on record on saying that game theory states that paying for something that you can get for free is dumb.
Indeed. Well said.
So, flags up, sails at full mast, pirating ahoy, R.
You're spitting on your hands and raising the Jolly Roger. And once it goes up, it can be hard to get that sucker down. So make sure you know what you're doing before you raise it. Indeed. But yeah, generally better royalties on ebooks. Although if it's a writer going through a Big Six publisher, even that's kind of dodgy. The best way for to get money into a traditionally published author's hand is to go see that author in person and buy a copy of the book directly from the author, the hardcover version, because the author gets those books at a discount and can then resell them for the list price and makes a bit more. So that's my pro tip for the day. And
I think you've destroyed Daddy Warpig's mic again.
Oh no.
Yeah. Am I back?
You are.
My word. I figured out where the problem is. I just don't know how to fix it. There is typically
get a real computer. Is that the solution?
That is what my timeline would have me believe. Here's the thing. There is, built into any operating system, a manual selection for which audio inputs and outputs you wish to be in effect at any given time. If you wish an external microphone or an internal microphone, external speakers or internal speakers. Google, in its infinite wisdom, has decided not to respect that setting in Google Plus Hangouts on the air. So they have their own personal manual setting. And the problem is Google does it wrong. Because sometimes they're respecting the system setting, and sometimes they're not, and sometimes they're respecting both. And there is a setting problem that arose in the past 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know how or why, but that is the difficulty I'm running smack dab into, is that Google does weird stuff with its software. It doesn't believe in following best practices for a platform. It believes in doing whatever the hell its programmers think they ought to be doing with Chrome, whether that makes sense or not in terms of another program or another software platform. So it is not tapping into the system APIs for sound selection in the recommended fashion, and because it's not following what is clearly recommended in the software design books that Apple publishes and provides for free, Google is causing me heartache, and it's really, really ticking me off.
No wonder.
I'm pretty sure that they don't produce any buggy software. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh.
Feel better.
I'm fuming. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm fuming. Because here's the thing, folks. We don't make any money off of this show. We do it for free. But I want to make this show as polished and as high quality as we possibly can, and we, spend time and we work to make it happen. And problems like this are amateurish, even when they occur outside of our control. It makes...
If you'd like us to make money on the show, meet me behind the bus stop on 3rd Street with an envelope full of non-consecutive bills at midnight.
It just, it makes us look amateurish, and I hate it. I hate it. It makes me want to scream at someone to say, fix your shit! And I don't care if you program for Windows or the Mac. There are awesome programs that can be made for both platforms. There are awesome programs that have been launched on either platform. But if you're going to program for Windows, you make something that works the way a Windows program should. That's where Apple made its grotesque error when it first released Safari for Windows, because they did not make it like a good Windows program. And I'm talking specifically about text anti-aliasing, if you know or care. And that is where Google made their mistake with Chrome. And several of the other pieces of software, they just don't pay attention to how the system is built, and they do weird, funky things. Like, they have submodules of software, and sometimes if you quit the main application, one of its submodules will still be running, even though you don't need it or want it. It'll still be listed in the task list, and that should never happen. You should never quit an application and have some part of its functionality still operating. That is wrong, that is bad. But they do it. I don't know why they do it, but they do it, and it ticks me off. It ticks me off every time I have to enter Google land and do things in the strange, weird way that they do, just because they think it's better for them to try and take all control for their software and not honor settings. Like, I can't even adjust the volume if certain settings are set in the program here in Google Chrome. I can't adjust my system volume. My volume keys, my mute keys, the software for my entire OS they overwrite it. That is bad human interface design. That is bad user design. You are not respecting the needs of your users in order to override settings like that, and at the same time, here's the kicker, there's no setting in their software that gives you control of that. So they will override your system setting for volume and not give you any controls to increase or decrease your own volume. That's a mistake. That makes me angry. We have about 1 minute left, so I'm going to take another sip of water and allow my co-hosts to say good night for tonight, and meanwhile I will try and get this fixed.
Hey, thanks for chatting. Thanks for everybody for listening. It was great talking to you. I just wanted to say before we go, Daddy Warpig, you have your own special volume control that we love. Never change. And anime sucks.
Well, how to follow that? Steal this podcast.
All right. I am blessed at this point in time to not be able to hear my co-hosts again. So it's awesome. It's great. It's incredible. It's the kind of thing I live for. When I wake up in the morning, what I say to myself is, man, I hope I get a whole gaggle of impossible to fix bugs right in the middle of a live broadcast, because that's exactly when I need bugs to crop up when I'm live online to the internet. We're out of here for tonight, folks. I appreciate deeply all of you who signed in to listen. We did our best to do a good show under extremely annoying circumstances for me. I want to say thank you to my co-hosts, Dorrinal, Brian Niemeier, I, of course, Daddy Warpig. We are here every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Geek Gab, the Geekarific Gabfest. If you like the show, if you love the show, please feel free to upvote. Feel free to subscribe. Get email updates around when the next show is going live. You can also check us out online. My blog and Brian's blog are both listed in the description below the show, and our Twitter accounts are also listed if you want to come on Twitter and follow us. We thank you all for tuning in. This is Geek Gab for Sunday, April 12th. Signing off. We will be back.